Hey, hi
Hello.
Daniel.
Hi, Raj.
How are you?
Yeah, good.
It's
So
nice
let
to
let us
finally see
start.
you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Hi everyone. My name is Daniel, and today we have a special guest from Toronto, Canada, and his name is Raj. Maybe Raj, you can introduce yourself and tell us more about yourself, and including your YouTube channel as well.
sure. Hi everyone. My name is Raj Patel. Um, I live in Canada since almost last 8 years now. I'm a data scientist by profession, so mostly into the tech world, machine learning, AI, stuff like that. But my YouTube channel is surprisingly not about tech at all, even though tech performs really well in YouTube. My passion is all about finance. And when I was young, I wasn't able to get that much information or learning from the finance world or how the finance works. The personal finance journey was very difficult for me. And we all know that the education system is still not designed to teach personal finance to the students, especially if you are traveling to a completely new country, like how I traveled to Canada, migrated to Canada 8 years before. It was very difficult for me to figure out, like how these different bank accounts work, because like I was back in India and it was totally different as compared to how it is in Canada. The way the credit cards work was different. The way you access certain systems, the way you understand how government designs the interest rates, and the economy in general. As it's a difficult journey if you don't have a lot of learning. And there were a lot of videos out there which were explaining, but they were like very generalized. So I figured that I was always within my friend circle. I was always able to kind of like find out some cool things you can do. And then one day, one of my friends suggested, he's like, so this specifically came from one video where I was like, hey guys, do you know you can actually reduce your tax on your salary if you just fill out this government form? And then they were like, wow, that's super cool. We are living here since like 5, 6 years. We didn't know about it, and I'm sure a lot of people don't know about it because that was like a hidden form, which only a few people would fill out. And they were like, okay, just create a YouTube video out of it. And I decided that this is no time where I want to hide myself, because I'm never active on any social media. And this was the first time I was like, okay, let me try to do something. And I was like, okay. Then I started researching last year in 2020, near Christmas, to see what I can do. So I utilized that break to research well. And 2023, January 1st, I basically started my YouTube channel. So that's how I kind of started my YouTube journey.
Okay. And as you were in this PTYA Academy class by Ali, so how can you, in the future, how can you bring your YouTube channel? Where can you bring your YouTube channel by learning what we have learned in this PTYA class?
Yeah, I can definitely speak a little bit about it. So Ali, PTYA is basically Ali's brainchild. And so Ali Abdal's videos were always inspiring to me. I have seen a lot of his content about how to basically speak on YouTube, and like how to be confident about it. It was really motivational. Productivity tips were really good, and then I stumbled upon his course. At the time, I wasn't prepared. I only had like 10 videos on my channel, and I was like, probably not this year. I would probably go next year and try to learn from it. And then he just announced that this is the last time he's going to do the live cohort, and he will not do it anymore, because it does not make sense for his business to spend a lot of time on this thing. And I was like, I cannot miss Ali's live session. So like I opened up my credit card, paid the fees, and I was like, okay, let's go for it. I will learn. If it's too much for me right now, I would probably take that notes and I would implement it as I move forward. But interestingly, before I started Ali's course, the PTYA community, I did not have my own like camera. I used to shoot on my phone. I did not have a good background and such. So my videos were probably not good quality like a pro YouTuber would think it would be. And like how the finance channels are, they're like mostly, like big money guys. So they would have a lot of money to throw in and make like very professional videos. Compared to that, my videos would be like nothing. No one would want to watch it. And I'm still struggling because finance is a big niche, and you don't get the views very easily even though your videos are good. But yeah, that gave me a motivation that okay, if I want to up my game, I should probably get everything beforehand. Luckily, I was working as a data scientist, pays me well, so I was able to afford it. But if someone new is starting their channel, I would definitely recommend not to wait at all and just take your camera out, just shoot it. If you are completely worried about how you would look, check out my first video. I'll basically say that. Check out my first video and see where I was, and just check out my latest video. You will see where you can land if you consistently follow the YouTube thing. So PTYA actually gave me a lot of information about how YouTube works in general, how to create your content, because I knew how to share the information, but I did not exactly know in what way should I share the information, because as you are now attracting a broader audience, you realize that you're not just looking at sharing the information, you have to understand how they would consume the information. So a lot of storytelling techniques. We had the great author Matthew Dix of the Story Worthy book. He is basically, I would say, like my guru when it comes to storytelling, and I was able to see him live. The workshops were amazing. We were able to see big YouTubers with millions of subscribers literally coming in there for 1.5 hour and like and sharing their like knowledge of everything, which was like I would say like no matter how much you pay, the course is always worth more than that. so it definitely taught me a lot. How about you, Daniel? What do you have? Do you have some outcome, or do you just agree with me?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And one more thing, I feel that my journey is more structured in a way that it's more systematic, like the thumbnails, the scripting. Because all this while I don't script, my thumbnail is like there's nothing that I can rely on. It's like the
Yeah,
colors, the things that I just do it like spontaneously.
yeah,
And then one thing what Ali says that it's good to start the first 50 videos are like shit. It's like shit. But the
yeah,
next 50 videos, the more that you do, the luckier you'll become. I
yeah.
believe in that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but with a caveat that you have to try to improve. You shouldn't be just like, oh, I'm just making first 50 videos and I'm assuming that you know what, like my 51st video will be good. With every video, you should be learning how I can improve. Like, what
Yeah.
are the feedbacks from this video? How I can make my script better? How I can make my, like look and feel better. um, I have seen in PTYA Academy people who makes a huge amount of professionalism in their video. Like they bring a lot of professionalism with a lot of B-roll effects and a lot of like the sound effects and stuff like that. And I have seen people who are like literally taking out their iPhone 13 Pro because that's where you get that cinematic, the blur background kind of feeling, and just goes on the walk, and
Yeah.
and and they are still viral on YouTube. So it's not about, I would say, at the end of the day, how you are presenting the information, as long as your content is valuable. One thing I have learned after doing PTYA, and it's the biggest thing, is that understand your audience. That's the first thing you should be doing on how you're structuring your content. For example, if you're making content for 50 plus year people, they would not want to see a lot of b-roll effect coming in and sound effects and like like cartoonish thing coming in. They just want someone who is like sitting there in front of them, explaining them
Yeah.
what exactly they need to do, and they would listen to them for hours. But if you are trying to find out people who are like under 20 years old, and if you're just sitting there and explaining them, they would not listen to you even if your content is really good. You would have to bring in all those sound effects or the cartoonish things, and like make your thumbnails very bright and attractive. So yeah, understand your audience. And from PTYA, we have learned, I think, tons of techniques on how to understand our audience. So that was really helpful as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, understand your audience is very important because each of us, like you have your own audience and I have my own audience.
Yeah,
So, and then the analytics also is very important. How you actually analyze the data
yeah.
is
It
also
it
very
never
important.
works same for everyone. So you should never think that whatever works for someone would definitely work for you, unless they are in the same niche and you know that you are targeting the same audience. That's where you find your competitors. You should not be aiming at someone with millions of subscribers and try to match with them, and instead try to find out people who are near your journey but doing better with their videos as compared to their subscribers, and look what different they are doing. And once you know what different things they are doing, that's when you can learn, okay, probably I should follow this one.
Yeah, improving like day by day.
Yeah,
Okay, maybe we move on. Like, since you're into finance, I see your channel is into finances, investing. Maybe we can talk about the maybe in the inflation that we are facing today.
yeah, sure.
So
I think I have spent a good amount of time in understanding why is it happening, on like what is happening and why is it happening. So what I figured from my learning and my research is that this inflation this time is not just on one country. It's a world inflation, and all the countries in the world are facing it. um, One of the core thing uh, I see is that it was long due. It was long due since everything was just kind of like going up and up and up, and it's a very normal phenomenon in the world that every decade you get like one big downturn, which basically resets the economy of the countries to then get back to their natural track. This time it was worse, probably is because we already faced the pandemic, the coronavirus situation, and it was already very difficult on a lot of people in the world, which then moved into the inflation, and it created a massive gap on between rich and poor people, because rich people leveraged it and poor people are basically, I have seen, I don't know in a lot of countries how it basically is being observed, but in Canada I have seen literally the price of groceries almost doubled within last 2 years. And I have met people who are like here since 25, 35, 45 years, and they were like, last 10 years we did not see any increase in tomato prices, and now we see it's doubled. So inflation is definitely skyrocketing. But obviously there are ways when the stuffs are inflating. That the job you're working on would probably be trying to pay you more, because there are more people there are less people in the market, the demand is more. And when there is more money in the market, for example, United States in during pandemic, they were just like throwing money away onto people. They were giving random paychecks of $1,000, $2,000 to people just to survive the pandemic. What people did, people used all that money, put it into the stock market, and the stock market got inflated. And when the stock market inflates, the whole economy inflates, and everything becomes expensive. Because how the basic phenomenon of an inflation, for those people who don't know, is that if I want to buy, let's say, a coffee, and the coffee, and we only have like five coffee available, and there are 10 people to buy that coffee, then someone would, and the base price of the coffee is, let's say, $2. Someone would come in and say that I'm ready to pay $3 for the coffee, and now the price of coffee is inflated to $3. And then someone will come in and say I'm ready to pay $4 for this coffee, and now, because people have money, if no one had money more than $2, then no one would say I'm going to pay $3. But what happened in the world is that people started making more money by passively or actively during pandemic, and kind of it triggered the inflation. Also, the interest rate was very low, so what people did around the world is that they utilized that interest rate to borrow the money. So virtually they have a lot of money in the hand, and they don't know how to handle it, because For example, in Canada, the mortgage rate for buying a house was around 1%, between 1 to 2%, which is like literally nothing. 1% in a year on $100,000 is like it's hot, like
Even
$1,000.
even now it's still 1%.
No, that's how it works. So when the inflation is there, and people are basically getting a lot of free money. For example, I
Mm-hmm.
bought my home in inflation, and my mortgage rate was 1.7. So there is a lot of kind of attachment to that kind of interest rate, and now a lot of money was out there in the market. So what people started doing is utilize that money to buy stuffs they wanted, and they were ready to pay
Mm.
more to buy the stuffs they wanted. And it
Mm.
just literally was a domino effect around the world, is what I observed. And at the end of the day, what happened is the governments of the world, United States, Canada, all like big countries, they decided that okay, inflation is going out of hand. It was going around 7%, and it was huge. So they were like, now we have to control it. And there are multiple triggers on how government controls the inflation. One of the ways to raise the interest rate. By raising the interest rate, what they do is, now your mortgage is expensive. Whatever the loan you took has more interest rate, because the interest rate are not fixed on the loans you take. They will increase as the government increases the interest rate. So now, if you are paying $500 on interest every month for spending a lot of money, now because you haven't paid the money back, you are now paying $2,000 on interest rate for the same thing. So now everything started shrinking very, very quickly. And that created less purchasing power in terms of, for people. And when people started purchasing less, I'll just give a very general example of, so that everyone in the world can understand this, is that when a lot of people don't have money, they started buying less smartphones, for example, Samsung smartphones or iPhones and stuff like that. What happens with that, the domino effect, is that now Apple and Samsung would be like, okay, we are not doing a lot of sales. So what we should do is we should cut down on latest developments. We should cut down on like people working with us, or we should cut down on like other supply chain and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, what happens is they start laying off people. And that's where the resignation, the great resignation was before that, when a lot of people, a lot of companies were ready to pay money, so people were leaving their jobs to get a higher pay jobs. But now this was great recession, which we are in right now, where the companies are ready to lay off people, to block their bonuses or promotions or increments. If you know, recently, just I think yesterday or day before yesterday, Microsoft announced in United States that they are not going to increase anyone's salary this year. No bonuses, nothing, just to keep the company intact. Even though if you performed like really, really good, does not matter to the company. At the end of the day, the whole recession game started, which again reduced the purchasing power of people, because now you don't have a job, so you're not going to buy new stuffs. And again, it spirals down into, now if you're not going to buy groceries, now the grocery companies are laying off people because they cannot keep their lights on. And now that people are like coming back into the market. So there are a lot of unemployed people, um, who are like ready to shift the job, ready to take on this lower level jobs and stuff like that. But yeah, the inflation is a crazy thing. And I just explained basically one way on how government controls the inflation. They have to make sure that they are not overdoing it. Otherwise, everyone in the country will be unemployed if this kind of effects goes on. So they have to be like very, very mindful on how they're treating the inflation. All the countries are doing it, by the way, not just United States and Canada. Uh, but yeah, that's the way they are trying to control. And inflation is like pretty much down now. It's not as high as it was, let's say, in 2022. So we are still in a good spot now. It's not going to be that bad. The market is recovering. But yeah, through my channel, what I do is basically try to cover some important topics on what happens if there is a increase in interest rate, if there are some new accounts people should put their money in, or what kind of ETFs. You don't know, it's basically the group of companies in one stock ticker, what kind of ETF they should buy for long term investing. Because what happens during the recession and inflation is that the stock market is down. And when the stock market is down, a lot of people think that I should take out all my money because it's making loss. But on an average, if you see like last 30 years, you would realize that the market recovers on a slow as a slow growth, but it does recover and it does outbeat the performance. So you should think that you are getting these stocks as discount, and you should find out the right companies which will survive these recessions and will grow and come out of it. And that's where I think yesterday I was just reading an article where they're saying like most of the millionaires in United States are born by the recession, because they will make the right choices in their investments during the recession. They will pour in a lot of money, and when the recession is finished, when the market recovers, their investment is doing 10x, 20x, 30x, and whatever their $1,000 they would have put in, that would become $100,000 or $200,000. So they pour in a lot of money at that time, instead of so they definitely focus a lot on savings, on budgeting, and try to invest as much as possible during the downturn in the market. And that's what makes them rich, and that's exactly what I want to teach the new immigrants and beginners on what your mindset should be around this time of inflation. So that was also one of the biggest driver on why I wanted to start my YouTube channel in 2023.
Like for mortgages, what's the interest rate in Canada now?
I think right now, for the mortgage rate, the interest rate is somewhere around like 5% or 4.5%. So it's
Okay.
it's like, yeah, almost 3 or 4 times um, than what I paid just 3 years before.
How's the property market like in Canada?
It's pretty much booming because
Even
the
now?
immigration policies are very very lenient. People are migrating a lot. I think millions of people do migrate every year to Canada as a permanent resident. And what happens as a part of this is that uh, at the end of the day, they have family. They have to have a home.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, because the rent is high, even more than United States. People would think that probably, oh, it's easy to go to Canada. Canada's currency is, like cheaper than United States dollar. Um, Probably Canada is cheaper. No, for those people who think that Canada is cheaper, Canada is actually more expensive than US. United States dollar is stronger and is cheaper to live in United States. The cost of living is less as compared to Canada. In Canada, the rent is high, the groceries is high, the price of milk is high, even the price of a house is high as compared to the United States. I can buy a house in United States for half the price right now of what I would have to pay in Canada on an average. Generally, if I'll consider all the provinces. So yeah, like because in United States the immigration is not that much booming. They have a lot of restriction on who can come and how much time it takes for them to get the green card. For Canada, it's relatively easier still now because the population is 10 times less than United States. Like we have around like 33 million, and they have around 300 million people in United States,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much similar landscape, or places to live. But yeah, it's it's not easy. A lot of people are ready to pay higher amount to get the home because they want to settle down at the end of the day. Let's say a quick example for this, for people who are wondering, is about, if you are paying $2,000 in rent, and if you buy a house, you are paying $3,000 in mortgage, then technically the $2,000 which you paid in rent is a giveaway money. You are not going to get that money back at all. But the $3,000 which you pay for the mortgage is actually building your equity in the house. And at the end of the day, when you sell the house, you're getting all the money back and probably more than that. So people are trying to get into buying the house as sooner as they can because the rent is expensive and they don't want to pay the rent.
And for immigrants, usually they are from which country, majority?
Most people, I would say India and China, because I would say it's not probably because the education system. Yeah, there are. So these people who come from probably India and China are people who are basically living a good life in their country and want to live a better life outside their country because they think they can do better than that. Not like the people who are still struggling in their own country would try to make it here. The reason why we see a lot of immigrants from these two countries is because of the population of their own countries, right? That's why you see more number of people. But if you find out the ratio of people who are coming, then I would say there will be a lot of other countries from where people do come, compared to how many people they have in the country as compared to India and China. But yeah, you will see a lot of them. And the reason is not pretty much very recent. The reason is goes back hundreds, I think, around 100 years before, because when Britishers actually captured Canada from the West, they brought a lot of Indian people, because at that time India was colonized, um,
Mhm.
to build the, I think, railroads. And also the same thing happened with people from China. But I think because China was not colonized, they were like, um, asked to come on salary basis. So a lot of people migrated at that time, where now we see, like, in 100 years, on an average, you see between 4 to 5 generations change. And so people who are there, they would obviously influence the people back home, and that's how that those people are like kind of like more. But yeah, interesting fact. I don't have any of my family members in Canada. I'm the only one.
Okay, like as a foreigner, is it easy to get a property in Canada?
As a foreigner, I think from what I know, you have to pay additional 30% tax if you are not a permanent resident. So,
There's a lot.
uh, yeah, yeah. And I think recently, for a short amount of time, because a lot of money was being poured in from China to
Mhm.
buy properties in Canada, government stopped any foreigner from buying property for a while. Um, and I think now they are resuming it back because a lot of them were just trying to invest money in the property and then giving out on rent. So what used to happen is people, same thing, inflation in the houses. There were very few houses to sell, and a lot of people wanted to buy it. Now those investors who have a lot of money, they would give premium money to buy that places, and then would second day they would put it on rent. Then someone who really wanted to buy the property and use it as their own home, now they will pay the rent to this investor instead. So that's what people did not like, and they complained to the government and stuff like that. But yeah, that's what exactly is happening. There are not a lot of houses been built, and a lot of people want to buy it, especially the investors. They are buying 10 houses, 20 houses, 50 houses in a block, and then they'll put all on rent, which is obviously not good for the economy.
Mm. So it's something like protecting the sector, property sector in
Yeah,
Canada.
yeah, yeah. They try that. That's why they have this 30% additional tax if you are not a Canadian resident and want to buy property in Canada.
So when a foreigner sell the property, there's more tax as well.
I think they would have to pay some tax, but I don't know about selling the property yet because I haven't encountered that kind of discussions. But it's definitely interesting to know how people would be selling the property. From what I see is that these investors, they just keep the property for long because they are getting a good amount of rent out of it.
Some investor they just buy the property and just keep it like vacant. They don't do anything. Is there a lot of case in Canada?
Yes, yes, we have seen that kind of news as well. Mostly it's because the investors would buy a lot of properties, but not a lot of people want to rent them at the price they are charging. So, yeah, based on that, depending on where they have bought the property, a lot of it will be vacant because not a lot of people are living in that area, anyways. So, uh, people would want to buy the house, but people would not want to pay that much rent for a house. So people are when you are in an area where people are looking to buy the houses but not to rent the house, your property will be vacant.
Yeah. So I think the cash flow will be negative if there's
Yeah,
no
but still,
transaction.
why
Yeah.
they still invest? is because they know that over time the market is kind of like inflating, right? So whatever they kind of like paid, let's say $1 million for the property, if that property becomes $2 million in 5 years, then even though they don't make any money in rent, they're still making a lot of money on their investments. So, but it's totally my perspective. Like for those who are watching this in future, it's totally your call. Uh, and yeah, a lot is happening in the real estate world in Canada. Those are some of the biggest levers: real estate, banks, and the immigration. Those are like the top gear for the Canadian economy. And if one of them does not work as expected, it basically creates hard time for people living in Canada.
And Canadian governments also still like they welcome a lot of people outside.
Yeah, because if you see, we are in lack of resources. We don't have a lot of people to do the regular jobs. We do have a lot of people who can do specialized jobs. But still, let's say, for example, if you're a plumber, electrician, stuff like that, there is a huge demand. Uh, and then there are a lot of, like heat points in Canada. It's not like United States where people are living in almost all the states. Even in United States, you see like the eastern end and the western end will have more population. In
Mm-hmm.
Canada, is pretty much isolated in British Columbia and Ontario. Those are two states or provinces where you see most of the population residing in, because the other places are more or less very cold in winter. So people don't want to go and live there. And you will find very less people migrating there. So there is a worker shortage in those provinces. So what government of those provinces do is that they give additional benefit or lower the criteria or bar for the immigration. So a lot of new migrants, they go into those provinces which are not very well known in Canada.
Okay. So in Canada, maybe the main cities are Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal.
Yeah,
These are the
those
big cities.
yeah, those are basically the eastern and the western corners. Um, Toronto is mostly popular because it's like New York of Canada. It has stock market. The stock market sits in Canada. All big banks headquarters, not headquarters, but like biggest buildings, they will be in Toronto downtown. Uh, so generally in any country, you will see, if you go back and realize, you will see the the most popular cities will be the cities where the stock market exists of the country.
Mm.
So
Okay, I
even
see.
in China, if you'll see, even in like if you go into, like, let's say Philippines, or if you go into, I have a lot of friends from like the Southeast countries, so uh, I know a lot about like cities uh, in different countries, but yeah, it's pretty much the same in Canada as well. And Vancouver is because it is very beautiful, and a lot of and it's an easy trade route for getting the supplies from China. So
Mm.
that's why a lot of Chinese migrant uh, are basically situated mostly in Vancouver. So that's where you will find out a very high imbalance of people. Um, so not a lot of diversity in Vancouver, but a huge amount of diversity in Toronto because of the stock market, real estate, and a lot of things. Yeah.
Mm. This Vancouver also there's a lot of honkies there as well.
Yeah. You'll
Yeah.
find a lot of people. Like you'll find a lot of people from basically the East Coast, basically the Eastern countries. A lot of people will be there just
Mm,
because the
mm.
trade route is easy. So a lot of businessmen would try to stay in it. The reason why I said like China in particular is because they have a huge supply chain of supplying to United States and Canada. For them it makes things very easier. But if you see like other business opportunities, then yeah, you will find a lot of people um, from all sort of countries where the trade route is easy.
Okay. Maybe a final wrap up, like your take home message to us.
I mean, it totally depends on how you're taking this video, right? If you're taking it from, I think we talked a lot about the immigration and like Canada in general, as compared to finance, but it is still very much related. So I would probably give this my final comment to the people who are probably a beginner in Canada, or who at some point of time want to migrate in Canada and live here with a better financial future. I would say try to make most of your money at the beginning of everything. Like, don't try to see that, okay, I just achieved a lot by coming to Canada or something like that. Or like in any of your financial journey, when you're starting, you have to be strict with yourself. You cannot be very lenient. So that's what I would say has helped me in my early days. The more you save in your 20s, even if you are like migrating to a newer country, will help you retire early. And at the end of the day, money is only a tool which will help you live a better life. So you have to make sure that, yes, you have to save and make some sacrifices in your 20s, but do not try to do the same thing when you are in your 50s. You have to try to utilize that tool, the money, and try to make the most out of your life. That's basically my comment.
Okay. So thank you so much for your time, Raj. I really appreciate your time in this session. So the link is below. You can check his channel, Invest 4K. Will be under down there, the description box. So thank you so much for your time, Raj.
Thank you, Daniel. Have a nice
Yeah,
day,
I see you. Yeah,
or
see
the
you.
evening. I think it's
Yeah,
evening at your time. Okay,
yeah,
see
it's
you.
evening. Yeah, see you.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.